Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are really getting into the story of one of the most, well, famous dinosaurs out there, but also one that's constantly misunderstood, the Velociraptor.
Oh, absolutely. It's an amazing story, actually, of how science keeps changing the picture. I mean, for most of the 20th century, Velociraptor and its close relatives, the Dromaeosaurids, they were kind of niche fossils, you know?
Right.
But now they're absolutely central to how we understand dinosaurs, like as a whole group of animals.
Well, our mission today is to track that huge transformation. We're looking at what the science actually tells us, which, let's be honest, is often way different from the image we get from movies and stuff.
Exactly.
We're going from that image of the scaly, super smart lizard running on two legs towards what modern paleontology suggests is more like hyper-efficient, feathered, almost like a giant killer chicken.
It's a bit startling when you put it that way, but yeah, that's closer. It's a perfect example of how science keeps making us redraw that mental picture. We'll look at how basically every key fossil find, from just a single sickle claw right up to evidence of feather attachments, has totally flipped our understanding.
Not just a velociraptor, but that whole dinosaur-bird connection itself.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this. So where does this story even begin? We're talking nearly 100 years ago, right? The 1920s.
Yeah, back in the Roaring '20s, you had these incredible, almost legendary expeditions heading out into the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. That's where the very first pieces of Velociraptor mongoliensis turned up.
And who actually described them?
That was Henry Fairfield Osborn in 1924. And Osborn was a huge figure in paleontology. I mean, this is the same scientist who named Tyrannosaurus rex.
Wow, okay.
But here's the catch. Osborn didn't have much to work with, just a few bones, a skull that was kind of crushed flat, and these really, really weird claws.
So with so little evidence, how did scientists back then even interpret this thing?
Well, they kind of defaulted to what they already knew. They figured it was probably just a smaller version of the big, meat-eating dinosaurs, the theropods that were well-established, like T-Rex or Allosaurus.
So like a mini T-Rex.
Pretty much, yeah. They imagined it walking slowly, probably dragging its tail on the ground. Because of that and the limited fossils, it just wasn't seen as very important. It kind of languished in obscurity for decades.
Even though some parts they did find were pretty unusual, especially that famous toe claw.
Oh, absolutely. That sickle claw on the second toe, that was the standout feature. It was huge, held retracted off the ground, just a totally unique weapon design for the time. It definitely raised eyebrows.
But without a full picture.
Exactly. Without a full skeleton to see its posture, how it moved, the dromaeosaurids just sort of sat on the scientific shelf. Nobody really grasped how revolutionary they were yet.
Okay, so fast forward almost 50 years. That obscurity finally gets shattered, doesn't it? Around 1969, with a different dinosaur.
Yes, Deinonychus, a larger cousin of Velociraptor. This was the real turning point. John Ostrom, a paleontologist, described Deinonychus based on several amazing skeletons found in Montana. Suddenly, there was enough material to piece together the whole animal.
And the picture changed dramatically.
Radically. That old image of the slow, tail-dragging lizard, gone.
So what did these new reconstructions show instead?
They showed an animal built for speed and agility, alert, balanced. The skeleton showed that the tail wasn't floppy. It was held stiff and straight out behind it, reinforced by long, bony rods running along the vertebrae.
Not dragging, but acting like
a counterbalance. Essential for making quick turns, keeping stable while running, maybe even controlling its pitch in midair during a leap. It was dynamic.
And what did that kind of active high-speed posture immediately suggest about its biology, its insides?
Well, the implications were massive. To power that kind of lifestyle, constant alertness, rapid movements, high-speed chases, you'd need a serious engine. It suggested a high metabolic rate, meaning potentially warm-bloodedness. This was a huge piece of the puzzle, suggesting that maybe dinosaurs weren't the sluggish, cold-blooded reptiles everyone assumed. This idea of fast, dynamic, maybe warm-blooded dinosaurs, it just kicked research on dromaeosaurids into high gear. It really shifted the whole paradigm.
So science is finally seeing this dynamic, athletic predator.
Yeah.
And then boom, Hollywood steps in, 1993, Velociraptor becomes a global superstar.
And that's where it gets really interesting and scientifically messy. Jurassic Park absolutely cemented the Velociraptor name in everyone's mind, but it baked in some major inaccuracies that honestly still linger today.
Okay, let's start with the most obvious one. Size. The movie raptors are terrifyingly big, like human-sized.
They really are, but the actual Velociraptor mongoliensis, the fossils from Mongolia, they were much smaller. Think more like a big turkey, maybe standing about half a meter, like knee-high at the hip. Probably weighed only around 15 kilos, maybe 30 pounds.
Which is, yeah, a long way from the 6-foot monster jumping over kitchen counters.
Exactly. The creatures in the film were actually sized and built much more like Deinonychus, which Ostrom described that one was maybe 2 or 3 times bigger than Velociraptor.
Or even bigger relatives.
Or even Utah raptor, the largest known Dromaeosauridae discovered later. That thing was enormous, like grizzly bear-sized. The filmmakers basically admitted they picked the name Velociraptor because, well, it sounded cooler.
Marketing.
Pretty much. It's a key point, though, if you want to picture the real animal.
But, okay, inaccuracies aside, the cultural impact was undeniable, right? It inspired a whole generation.
Oh, absolutely. Huge impact. But just as that popular image of the big, scaly, super smart lizard was taking hold, science was about to drop another bombshell. The biggest one yet, maybe. Feathers.
The feather revolution. When did that really kick off?
It started gaining serious steam around 1999, mostly thanks to incredible fossils coming out of China. Discoveries like Sinosauropteryx, these were just impressions. You could see clear filament-like structures preserved, actual fuzz.
And Sinosauropteryx itself wasn't a dromaeosaurid, was it? Why was it so important?
Right, it was a different type of small theropod. But it proved something crucial. Feathers weren't originally just for flight. They were a more ancient feature, probably for insulation, maybe display.
So even big dinosaurs that didn't fly could have been covered in them?
Exactly. It shattered that purely scaly reptile image for good. And it really hammered home the idea that birds aren't just related to dinosaurs. They are dinosaurs. Living dinosaurs.
And then things got even weirder, didn't they? Around 2000.
Oh, yeah. Microraptor. This one was a dromaeosaurid, and it was bizarre. It had feathers, but not just on its arms.
It had them on its legs, too, like 4 wings.
Exactly. Fully developed flight feathers on both its arms and its legs. Plus, it had hollow bones like modern birds and asymmetrical feathers, the kind needed for generating lift.
4 wings. Was that like an evolutionary step towards modern birds?
It seems more like an evolutionary experiment, actually. Probably a dead end. Maybe having 4 wings made it clumsy on the ground or wasn't as efficient in the air as the later 2-winged setup. But it showed just how much experimenting was going on in that family, how close they were getting to the modern bird body plan.
Wow. And did they find anything else about its appearance?
Yeah, amazingly, the fossil pigment cells suggested its feathers were likely iridescent black, like a modern starling or a crow, probably for display, flashing in the sunlight.
So the evidence for feathers on relatives was piling up. But did they have the smoking gun for Velociraptor itself?
That finally came in 2007. They found quill knobs directly on a Velociraptor arm bone, the ulna.
Quill knobs, what are those exactly?
They're little bumps on the bone where the ligaments for large feathers anchor. You find them on modern birds that have strong wing feathers. Finding those exact structures on a Velociraptor fossil, well, that pretty much ended the scientific debate about whether it had feathers.
It wasn't just inference anymore. It was direct anatomical proof.
Precisely. And when you combine that with the evidence from things like Sinosauropteryx and Microraptor, you start picturing Velociraptor not just with some fuzz, but potentially complex feather patterns, maybe for camouflage in its environment, maybe for signaling to each other, or bright colors for mating displays. It's a much richer, more bird-like image than the movie monster.
So science delivers this slam dunk evidence. Velociraptor had feathers, probably complex ones. How did Hollywood react? Did they rush to update the look?
Not so much. There was definite resistance. Jurassic Park 3 came out after some early feather discoveries, and they gave the raptors these sort of minimal quills along the back of the head, a tiny nod maybe.
Barely noticeable.
Right. Then Jurassic World in 2015 just went back to the fully scaly look, doubled down on what was familiar and popular. The lizard aesthetic won out.
Even when they did finally try to add feathers later, it still felt quabble off.
Yeah, in Jurassic World Dominion, they introduced a feathered dromaeosaur called Pyroraptor. But its behavior was really exaggerated, acting more like some kind of, I don't know, killer penguin bursting out of the ice. It was definitely spectacle over accuracy.
Okay, so the blockbusters have struggled.
Yeah.
But away from that are more accurate features starting to appear in depictions, things based on the latest science.
Absolutely. And some of these details are fascinating. Take the sickle claw itself.
Well, what's new about the claw?
Well, we've realized the bone core is only part of the weapon. Just like a cat's claw or a bird's talon, it would have been covered in a thick sheath of keratin.
Like fingernail material.
Exactly. And that keratin sheath adds significant size.
How much bigger?
potentially up to a third longer than the underlying bone. So that already impressive claw was actually much longer, sharper, probably more dramatically curved than just the fossil bone suggests. Even more terrifying.
Wow. And what about how they moved? You mentioned the connection to birds earlier.
This is a really cool one. We're now seeing depictions, especially of the larger dromaeosaurids, like that massive Utahraptor, showing a very specific bird-like way of moving,
Which is?
keeping its head incredibly stable, almost perfectly still, while the body is moving underneath, maybe rapidly. You see this in modern birds, like chickens pecking around or owls. They stabilize their visual field.
And why would a predator do that? What's the advantage?
It allows for amazing visual focus while tracking prey, especially if you're moving fast. Imagine trying to zero in on a target if your head is bouncing all over the place.
Right, you'd lose it.
Exactly. So that stable head suggests really sophisticated visual tracking and neurological control. It lets you calculate the precise moment to strike with that big keratin-covered claw. It speaks volumes about how advanced these animals really were.
That stable head movement.
Oh.
It kind of perfectly sums up the whole journey, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
From a few misunderstood bones suggesting a small lizard, we've arrived at this picture of a highly specialized, fast, feathered predator with incredible senses and bird-like mechanics.
It really does. And it just highlights how science works, you know? It's iterative. Each discovery, whether it's realizing Velociraptor was small or finding Deinonychus showed the posture or spotting those tiny quill knobs, each one forces us to adjust, sometimes radically, our mental image. The reality keeps getting more complex and, honestly, more interesting than the fiction.
So we know dromaeosaurids were feathered, they had these advanced bird-like movements, and evidence suggests they might have been social hunters too. Which brings up a final thought for you, our listeners.
Yeah, think about this. If that stable head points to such advanced visual hunting tactics, what other complex behaviors, things we might think of as more bird-like or even mammal-like, maybe complex social structures, or how they raise their young might these feathered predators have had, behaviors that maybe the fossils just haven't shown us yet? What other surprises are waiting in that link between the killer fowl and the birds we see today?
Something to chew on until our next deep dive.